global king of mentalists, folks. I have never, ever met anyone who is more enjoyable, entertaining, accurate. This man is blessed. I mean it. God gave you a very, very special gift. The Amazing Kreskin joins us right now, and Happy New Year, first of all. What's that?
This man had in his home, and he set it up like a theater. And I guess they just wanted the intimacies, and it's a neat opportunity because I love. I mean, my audience is, Minnesota State Fair was like 10,000, Oregon State Fair was 30,000, and theaters all over, everywhere. But it's really neat when you're working close because, boy, when I tune in on people's thoughts then and start describing what they're thinking, everybody around knows, hey, this couldn't be rigged because we know each other. You know what I mean, Phil?
Yeah, of course I know what you mean.
By the way, and you've been with me. How long ago was the last time that we saw each other, Phil?
So we were in New Bedford at the Zeiterion, I would say 2 years ago or so.
2 years back. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I got to come back in the area again. My life has been it's incredible. How hectic. I'm not complaining, but I've since I spoke since the day after Christmas to New Year's Day, I did 42. Radio and television appearances aside from the live concerts, and I just love my work, and it does read like an adventure. Did I tell you the story? Did I tell you the story of the guy? I don't. If I did, then we will. I tell you the story of the guy that I asked. I was in the Midwest, and I asked for someone to come up on the stage, and this gentleman did, and I said, "Have we ever met before?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, wait till after the program. The audience. I don't want the audience to feel that anything's been prearranged. When did I last see you?" He said, 30 years ago. I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I was hit by a car and thrown 72 feet." Did I ever tell you that story?
No.
Wait till you hear this.
Yeah.
This is the true story.
Yeah.
It happened in the town of Caldwell, New Jersey. I said, could you relate this to the audience? Because this is in the Midwest. Of course, he's no longer living in New Jersey. He was hit by a car, but he was pronounced dead. I mean, obviously, he survived. He looks very healthy looking, what have you. And the police came. They realized there was some life. They got him to a hospital and so forth. So the police brought 3 witnesses, 3 women. One was hysterical. I couldn't work with her because it was a horrible thing to see a person thrown so like that. The other 2, I was able to work with their memories, their minds, and slowly put together a license plate that they slowly recalled. And the police searched, and the next day found the car in Connecticut, and the person who stole the car was a stolen car. But a few weeks later, the same police come to my home. They said, "Kreskin, can we speak to you for a few minutes?" I said, "Yes." Weren't you on the case that we helped, that I worked on to help solve? He said, "Yes." I said, "Everything okay?" "Yes." They said, the person that was the culprit, we didn't tell you about him. I said, "No." I said, "Some months ago, we sent a man to your house who was very heavy, who was witness to a number of crimes." I said, "Yes, I'm sorry I wasn't able to work with that person. I couldn't seem to get response and information." They said, "It's a good thing you weren't." I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Because that person that you worked for a month or so ago that you couldn't seem to get much information from, although he apparently was volunteering, that's the person who was the hit-and-run man." I said, "Yes." They said it. And we found out that he's the head of the mafia here in Essex County, New Jersey.
Oh my gosh! I just got goosebumps.
So can you imagine, Phil? And I've worked on 86 crime cases. But the point of the matter, they were saying, if I were able to bring out of him or elicit information that was not for me to have, I'm not sure he'd be interviewing me today. So my life really reads, I swear to God, like an adventure, Phil.
It is. It really is. You've been at this for how many decades now, Kreskin?
Well, I'm going to be in a week or so 83 years old. So, and I started when I was in my performing. when I was in my early teens. I was getting big money then. I was getting $3 and $4 and $5 a performance, and there was no minimum wage at that time. So I say to people in show business, I mean, I champion people having a minimum wage. But if you're in show business, you may have to work for nothing or hardly anything to prove yourself. Do you know what I mean, Phil?
I do indeed. In Greek, we say chronia pola, many, many more years, Kreskin.
Now, what language is that?
Greek.
Oh, I love Greece. I've performed in Greece. Oh my God, I have a love affair with the Greek. Are you Greek, Phil?
I am. Paleologos. It means ancient word. The name Paleologos, ancient word. Mm-hmm.
I love that name. That's a beautiful name. And did I hear someone applauding? Was that the young lady you mentioned to me, Casey?
That wasn't Casey. That was me applauding you. Happy birthday to come.
A couple of quick things I want to say to folks. I happen to love animals. By the way, we're having a blizzard here in New Jersey. I guess you heard about it. But I have a show tonight, so I may do it in the snow. No, that would be the case if they do have it tonight. But I want to say this because I love animals. You folks, listen to me because I mean this with all my heart. I have a great passion for animals. They don't betray people. I have 4 cats. If I didn't travel, I'd probably have 6 dogs, a pig, what have you. But folks, listen to me and hear what I'm saying because I've decided to go public with this. If you're going to adopt an animal, before you adopt one, hold off 2 more weeks. Listen to me, folks. Hold off 2 more weeks. I want you to investigate in your area the care of the animal because what's happening, I've gotten calls all over the place from celebrities in Los Angeles. I've gotten calls from Texas. It's now happening in this area here. Many of the veterinarians are no longer in private practice. Some that we know aren't even in their offices anymore. They've been taken over by corporate groups, and consequently, the cost of treating the animal has skyrocketed in some areas. And if you're going to have an animal, you want to be able to take care of them. I'm not saying don't adopt. I'm saying be prepared for new challenges.
How interesting. Wow.
And I'm saying this because I love animals.
Do you have any?
One gentleman, one of my closest friends in Texas, and he's multimillionaire. He didn't complain, but he says friends of his are saying more and more animals, by the way, is already starting in California, are being put on streets. The gentleman, my friend told me he had this animal, his dog. He's lost his wife. His dog lives with him. He loves it. It was treated, but it had to be kept there at the office at the vets for eight more days, and the bill he got for the animal sleeping there was $8,000.
Oh my goodness, way out of control.
So it's not, and I support vets, but folks, know what you're getting into because you don't want to put your pet out on the street, as is now happening. I talked to an attorney friend of mine in Los Angeles. It's happening more and more in California. So our culture. I'm telling people about things that they don't hear greatly. By the way, you'll get a kick out of this. I think this is and by the way, don't anyone misunderstand me. I have nothing against attorneys. I just wish that most of them had been in the Titanic. But I have good friends. I have good friends that are attorneys. My prediction is 7 or 8 years. 70 to 80% of the attorneys in the United States today will be out of work. They will be fired. And by the way, before people think you're out of your mind, Kreskin, I've done private corporate affairs, and businesses have said to me, Kreskin, it's already starting to happen. People are now going to electronic devices, electronic machinery to do their legal work and so forth, and there is less and less a need for a personal attorney.
How our lives are changing. Kreskin, our lives are changing so much because of this stuff.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're changing in a way that we're. The other thing, and my degree is in psychology, which I don't brag about because I've been performing way before I ever went to college. But the other thing that's happening, and this is something which I can tell you, some very top physicians have quietly agreed with me and said, Kreskin, the public and the medical world doesn't quite see what's happening. We have wonderful medicine today. We have great electronic ways of investigating a person's problem.
Right.
We have various medications, drugs, which of course the drug industry has made a racket out of, but that's beside the point.
Yep.
We have important drugs and what have you. But something is slowly disappearing from medicine in the Western world today. And what is disappearing is one of the great gifts of healing that existed for decades and centuries, and that is the personal healing of a physician.
Yes.
I don't mean that they have occult powers. I don't mean that they're mystical. But all through history, I had a wonderful Jewish physician when I was a kid who everyone revered. The police only went to him. There was something about him that had a healing effect beyond the medication and what have you. And because of all the electronics, all the time looking at the videos when you go to a doctor's office, less and less time and less personal time is spent with the patient.
So
and
true.
God forbid we lose the gift of healing. That is a powerful form of medicine.
That same love and passion is starting to go wayward from relationships, from...
Yes, it is.
You know,
yes, it is, Phil.
I know.
Because of the uneasiness of what's happening in our culture today. Women are going to be purchasing more and more electronic eavesdropping devices. It's going to be one of the biggest businesses existing in the United States. They're going to be purchasing them to protect themselves. But men also are going to be purchasing eavesdropping and recording devices, hidden type ones, to protect themselves. We're reaching a point now because people are remembering what happened 30, 40 years ago. Years ago, when we were growing up, everybody had incidents in their lives that at times were embarrassing, and they went on with life.
Yes.
That's no longer the case. We don't seem to be able to move beyond our past.
Isn't that
amazing? This is a serious change that young people must understand, because there are no secrets left in our culture anymore at all.
And that's why I feel the old-fashioned way had so much foundation and wisdom. I miss it. I really do.
Yes, I very much so. You know, folks, do yourself a favor. I've said this the last few days when and the New Year's and what have you. All of you, listen to me. Do yourself a favor. As much as we're rushed, as much as we're running in life, and as much as we're in a hurry, every day, just find a few minutes to stop and breathe and reflect upon some of the smaller things that are valuable, including the people that we've touched.
Amen.
You've got to stop the world and get off every day.
Can you feel this radio hug, because you're in the middle of the embrace? I love you so much for what you just said. People are thirsting for that message, Kreskin.
Phil, I thank you. Yes, I do feel your embrace. We touch people in various ways, and we're going to see each other again sometime. That I foresee.
Yes.
I'm not looking to a crystal ball today because I get a headache when I do that. But you know, the other thing, Phil, and yes, what you said is very, very important. The other thing, Phil, and I've said this before, I say this to all my audiences because I'm an entertainer when I'm on stage, but we can't stop laughing at ourselves. We need to laugh. In the worst of wars, comedians, whether it be Bob Hope or Jerry Colonna or what have you, marched on and found areas, even serious areas, that we could chuckle about. Folks, I have a sign in my office. I've told you this before, Phil, and it's been photographed by reporters when they come in. They say, you know, I'm going to make one up like that. It simply says this: if anybody ever calls me politically correct, kick me in the ass.
I love it. Oh my gosh!
So I want to keep it. Maybe in about 3 or 4 weeks or so, I have something new coming out that I'd love to. I'm not going to say I'm going to pitch it. Am I a pitch person? Well, I do sell things from time to time, but I always like to share new things that I'm developing and what have you. And you are a joy. The warmth comes across on the microphone, and people who know me through the years understand that I've admired people in radio because I was influenced greatly by one of the most powerful figures who ever existed in broadcasting, and in the 40s and 50s, so powerful that Time magazine did cover stories. There was a man that, as the gentleman, by the way, the gentleman who just passed away from 60 Minutes last year, he was the one that always did caustic things at the end. You know what I'm talking about?
Of course, not Rune Aldridge, but yes. Oh my gosh, now here's where I need your mentalist skills.
But no, you know what? He worked for this gentleman. He said the man is a forgotten giant, and that man before Steve Allen passed away.
Oh.
Steve Allen was the one whom I knew. He sent me in his will. He sent me much material about them, and he says somebody needs to remember this person. It was someone by the name of Arthur Godfrey.
I love him. I was thinking about
Godfrey years ago changed the format of radio because people don't realize in the 30s and early 40s when you were on the radio you had to dress in a tuxedo and the women had to wear evening gowns, and they said ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
And he was stuck in a hospital in Washington, D.C. He said, if I ever get on radio, I'm going to realize that if someone's at home, they're usually by themselves, because if they're with the other people, they're conversing and what have you. And I'm going to never say ladies and gentlemen again. And the word empathy was embraced by psychologists to describe, as TV Guide said, this man who felt like he was communicating only with them individually.
Absolutely. You could feel his warmth.
I respect, I don't live in the past, but I respect people who are pioneers, because all of us, you and myself, we all profit from what we learned about them. You know what I'm saying?
And continue to learn. And Arthur Godfrey was such an inspiration in my life. His warmth and his connection with our listeners, you could see his smile. You could see that beauty over
Phil,
the airwaves.
People don't know. This is why Steve Allen and
I love
Gary
Steve
Moore
Allen.
and others have said, Kreskin, you got to write. And some of the people who work from that say you know more about him now. What people don't realize is that the reason that Eisenhower ran for office, one of the key reasons, is when Tex McCrary, who had a radio show called Tex and Jinx, when he flew to, after the Second World War, when he flew to Europe and met with David Eisenhower, he brought a man with him. And General Eisenhower said, all right, I'll run for president, providing you be my inspiration to the general public. And that man that he was talking to, that Tex McCrary brought with him, was Arthur Godfrey. He says, Mr. Godfrey, will you on the air inspire people on an inspirational side? I will then run for. And by the way, and Time Magazine research and others did, had Eisenhower and the vice president been assassinated at that time because there was a Red Scare, it was quietly decided that Godfrey would take over the nation. Oh, I'm not going stupid. I'm not flipping out. The public doesn't know this, but some of the New York newspapers investigated, and had the president been assassinated, each network took a disc, was to take a disc and put it into a machine, and the disc simply said, hello, this is Arthur. Just wait till I get to a live microphone, and I'll help guide you folks, because he was the most trusted voice in the Western world at that time. Is that not interesting?
Oh, my God. Fascinating. Fascinating.
So the reason I talk about things like this is we all have to realize how in our own way we touch others.
Oh, wow.
We touch others, and we may not see them again for a while. I often say to young people, just bear in mind, when you meet someone for the first time, that's the only time you'll ever meet them for the first time. And the impression you leave and how you leave is not easily lost. So, Phil, I know we've gone way beyond the 10 minutes, but I could talk to you for an hour, and sometime in the future we'll spend even more time together.
We love listening to you. We love your wisdom, your love. Chronia Pola.
Oh, I love that. I love what you said, and so you understand me, because I'm Polish Italian, and I love Polish jokes, but my family, we laugh at it. But I want to tell you something. As I said before to you in the past, I won't say goodbye. Let's just say, for the time being, in the spirit of broadcasting, to be continued.
Amen. Folks, you can go to Kreskin's amazing website, theamazingkreskin.com. There's all sorts of books and all sorts of fascinating things, but you are in our hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you, my friend.
Godspeed, Phil.
Likewise.
Happy New Year.
Likewise. The Amazing Kreskin.